Today's video is going to be a combination of the end of the year book tag as well as my December TBR. So hi and welcome back, my fellow fantasy book lovers, or if you're new here, hi and welcome. My name is Kathy and I'm a fantasy book lover from Belgium. I actually got inspired by another YouTuber to do this video as well, so I will be linking their video in the description box, as well as all of the questions and of course my answers to them. First question, are there any books you started this year that you need to finish? Well, generally when I don't finish a book, so when I DNF it, I don't get back to it. So I DNF'd 2 books this year so far. One of them is Long Live Evil by Sarah Rees Brennan, and I will definitely not be picking up that book again. It was very frustrating for me to read it because the setup is amazing, or the setup sounds amazing, and maybe that's why I got my hopes up and got so disappointed. We have this girl who's terminally ill, and she actually gets a last chance to survive, kind of, by going into this fantasy book world that she's obsessed with, and within a month's time she has to find a flower and use that flower to kind of get a next chance. The setup sounds incredible, but the book itself was very flat, it was very one-toned, and the point that I decided to DNF was right after they tried to have a musical episode in book form, and I hate when that happens in series. So for example, the series Lucifer, I loved that series, I was obsessed with Lucifer, and then you had the musical episode and I could not stand to watch it. So just imagine if you don't like musical scenes in series, how that must be in book form. The second book I have technically DNF'd, but I'm very slowly still reading, is Lucy Undying. And other than it being based on Lucy, one of Dracula's first victims, I didn't really know what to expect from this book. It's written from Lucy's perspective, another girl's perspective from now, and then also journals. The constantly jumping timelines make it very confusing to follow the story. I'm sure further in the book it will add up and be actually interesting. For me, it just felt extremely long and unnecessary, and just I really didn't connect to the story. Question number 2. Do you have an autumnal book to transition into at the end of the year? I'm a big mood reader. If you've been along on my channel for a little bit longer, you might know that already. I do give myself themed TBRs around some specific theme for each month. So some months I try to read only vampire books or only dragon books, etc. So I don't have specific books to help transition into the end of the year. What I do have is I have a few witchy reads and cozy fantasy reads that I hoped to get more into towards the end of the year. So I have The House Witch, I have The Honey Witch, I think the other book is called. I have a few books that are more cozy fantasies that I would love to read a little bit more of, but somehow I always gravitate towards vampires. I'm very guilty of that. Question number 3. Is there a new release you're still waiting for? Well, yes and no. In the meantime, I've got a few of these books, not all of them. I think 1 or 2 of them I actually bought recently, but these are all books that have been released this year that I still haven't gotten around to. So by noting them down here, I might actually remind myself to read them this year. The first one is my most recent purchase. It is The Songbird and the Heart of Stone by Carissa Broadbent. And this is the next book following Ashes and the Star-Cursed King in the Crowns of Nyaxia series. And I actually currently have it up there with my other books that I just purchased so that I can include them in my video. But this book is very high on my priority list because I love Carissa Broadbent's world building, I love her characters, and I love Mish, who will be the main character for this, I think, duology. So I'm really excited to get started on that one. Up next is Servant of Earth by Sarah Hawley. This is from the fantasy romance author Sarah Hawley. I think this is the first book that is a bit thicker, and it will also be more a fantasy book and not purely a romantasy book. So she's the author of A Witch's Guide to Fake Dating a Demon, A Demon's Guide to Weighing a Witch, and A Vampire's Guide to Seducing a Vampire. Those 3 books are romantasy books, and this book actually will go further into a fae realm, so I'm very curious to see how that goes. Another book that I would love to read is A Court of Dragons and Twilight. This is the conclusion to the A Court of Dragons N series, which I think is 5 or 6 books by now. This is a romantasy Why Choose series. It's honestly not as good as some of the other series that I've read that are Why Choose. However, it is very enjoyable. And if you like dragon shifters and if you like other myths just sprinkled in because they're really not that necessary, I think you might enjoy this. G. Bailey is an author that has a very big collection of fantasy romance books. I think there's like over 50 at this point, all of different realms that are like interconnected. So these realms are connected to the ones of wolf shapeshifters, etc. So if that's something that you might enjoy, then yeah, you can get into it as well. But I'm very curious to see like the conclusion of this series because it had some really good moments, some really bad moments. So I just hope this ends on a high. Up next is a book that a friend of mine recently recommended to me, and it is Phantasma by Kaylee Smith. And I've actually seen this book pop up on Book Talk recently, and I was surprised that no one is talking about it. So I really want to know, like, is it good? Is it not good? Hope that I will be getting a copy as a Christmas present so I can read it pretty soon. The next book on my list is The Tainted Cup by Robert Jackson Bennett. This is a book that was actually released at the beginning of the year, and I saw another YouTuber talking about it and it got me intrigued, and somehow it got completely off of my radar until I actually was making this list of books that I actually wanted to read this year but haven't gotten around to. And then finally, Immortal Dark by Taijas Girma. This was also a September release that I still haven't gotten. I have seen it around and I somehow hadn't picked it up yet. So this is one of the books that I ordered myself during the month of November because I'm really intrigued and I want to know what it's about. Question number 4. What are 3 books that you want to read before the end of the year? Well, I want to read more than 3 books before the end of the year. One of the books that I absolutely want to read is The Songbird and the Heart of Stone. I also want to at least start the Vampiria series by Victor Dixon. So I have the first book, which is called Court of Shadows, and I think the second one is called Court of Miracles. I really want to get into this series because apparently it's amazing. It is originally a French series that has now been translated into English, and honestly, if I enjoy it in English, maybe I should pick it up in French because it's being translated but slowly. However, I'm French native, so I could as well read it in French, so maybe we'll see. And then I don't really have a third book that is a priority. I just want one of the books that I just mentioned of the new releases that I haven't gotten around to. Question 5. Is there a book you think could still shock you and become your favorite book of the year? I honestly have very high hopes for the Victor Dixon books. I know Carissa Broadbent's writing style. I know it's going to be amazing, but it's going to be more of the same. So I kind of know what to expect from her. So I hope the Victor Dixon will be a nice surprise, or maybe another author that I haven't read from before could surprise me as well with their writing style. But to be honest, it's going to be pretty hard to beat J. Kristoff, Empire of the Vampire, Empire of the Dam, because they have set the bar really high for vampire-themed fantasy. And yeah, vampire-themed fantasy is just one of my absolute favorites. And then number 6, have you already started making reading plans for 2025? Well, more or less. I have a very big TBR list and TBR bookcase. My bookcase is overflowing, let's be real. It is full with books that I still want to read. So my plans for 2025 will definitely include reading from my physical bookcase more instead of just buying new books and stacking them. That's also one of the reasons that the shelf up here is now my book haul shelf. So at least I have a little bit of time to like read books from the other bookshelf or from my new reads. before I actually start making the puzzle to put them in there. But yeah, other reading plans for 2025. I want to at least read 50 books, as was my plan for 2024, and I've crushed that number. I'm currently at 60 books read, and I think I will make it to 65 or even more. We'll see, but I don't like to up my goal because then it takes away a little bit of the enjoyment of reading for me. What other plans do I have for 2025? I want to, of course, continue reading vampire themed books. I want to get more into magic systems that are a little bit more complex and also into longer book series. So I started the Temeraire series by Naomi Novik, and I would love to continue that one. But I also want to pick up another bigger series because right now I'm reading a lot of duologies, trilogies, and standalone books, but I also want to get into like a bigger world, a more complex magical system, etc. So if you have any recommendations for me that are a bigger book series, it doesn't have to be 10 books. It could be, but it doesn't have to be. With a complex magical system, I preferably would have strong female characters in it. It can have romance, it can have smut, but it doesn't have to. I just want something a little bit more complex to sink my teeth into, reading-wise, of course. So that brings us to the end of the tag, and now I want to quickly jump into my December TBR. For December, I have as a goal to finish as many series that I started that have books out as I can. So that means that if I have duologies that I haven't read the second book of yet, or series such as the Hades and Persephone series, that I want to at least make progress in them. I don't want to finish every single series that I'm currently reading, but I do want to have that sense of completion of finishing a duology or a series. So on my list, I have The Hemlock Queen, which is the second book to the Foxglove King. I also have The Mirror of Beasts by Alexandra Bracken, which is the second book to the Silver and the Bone duology. So I would love to complete those. Series that I've started that I have more books by are Filthy Rich Vampires. I have books 2, 3, and 4, but I have only read book 1 so far. I have all of the books from the Hades and Persephone series, but I've only read book 1 and 2. So maybe I want to try and give it another chance and read book number 3 and see if I still want to continue after that or not. I am selling my physical copies, however. I also would love to continue reading in my Temeraire series by Naomi Novik. I'm sure there are series that I'm forgetting right now, but those are the ones that I feel are like my priority. And I, of course, also want to continue into Carissa Broadbent's realm with The Songbird and the Heart of Stone that only just picked up at the moment of recording this video. Maybe by the moment it airs, I will have already read it because I'm very curious to see what happens. So if you stuck around to the end of this video, thank you so much. Feel free to let me know what are your reading plans for December. Is there a theme that you're having to your TBR? Do you, like me, want to complete series that you are currently reading, or do you have something completely different? Feel free to let me know in a comment down below which is your most anticipated read for December. If you enjoyed this video, feel free to give it a big thumbs up, and if you haven't already and you'd like to be, feel free to subscribe to my channel. I make new videos every week and I would love to have you for every single one of them. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you very soon with a new video. Bye!